First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Double honors to the elders of GMS, and double honors to all the camps on the highways and byways, bringing out the word in truth and spirit and sincerity. In the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. As you can see, today's, these ants coming in partnerships here, boy. Anyway. Today's edification is called, for all these things do the nations of the world seek after, right? Which what we know what that is, money, wealth, power, but specifically money, right? Money brings what for these nations? Debt. They all seek after debt, all right? What you got to remember is that with this money printing that's going on around the world, the only thing that comes with that is debt, because we're talking about money that has no intrinsic value. Countries and nations are all seeking after money, and with money comes debt, and the money that they have is just printed money. So they make a phone call to their central bank, the central bank makes a phone call down to the printers in the basement, and then the printers in the basement start printing the money, then they issue it to the central bank issues all of that money to the governments, and then the governments loan that money out, or should I say the central bank loans that money out, gives it out to the commercial banks and investment banks. And then with that just comes debt upon debt upon debt, because we just live in a time where we just print money where there is no end to it. The money that we have today is not backed by gold. It's not based on the gold standard, which we used to live under and have once upon a time. 1971, that was taken away from us. So I'm going to read an article here, came across today, talking about the Deutsche Bank. Now, just in case you don't know, the Deutsche Bank is the biggest bank in Germany. It's Germany's biggest bank, and it has associations with many other banks. So Deutsche Bank right now is going for a major restructuring because of all of the money printing that's been going on, and the money that they loan from the central bank, from the European Central Bank, to keep it afloat. So recently you might have heard Deutsche Bank has announced that they're going to axe 18,000 people, 18,000 employees are going to be axed from their jobs by the end of 2020. By the end of 2020, all right? So remember, we're in 2019, July 2019. So in 18 months' time, 18,000 people that work for the Deutsche Bank are going to be made redundant. So the article says, this is the headline, it says a bank with 49 trillion in derivatives exposure is melting down before our eyes. Now, just in case you don't know what a derivative is when you, as an investment bank or commercial bank, but small is normally the investment arm of that commercial bank, when you invest in future stocks, that's why they call it futures. Derivatives are like iron, gold, silver, platinum. It can also be what do you call it, the word's gone right out of my mouth. Derivatives can also be grain, like corn, oats, you know, what farmers grow. So it says here, it says a bank with $49 trillion in derivatives exposure, 49 trillion we're talking, which means they've invested 49 trillion, they've backed $49 trillion worth of derivatives that's got an exposure. 49, not billion, trillion. And remember, a trillion, $1 trillion is 1,000 billion, 1,000 billion. So this is 49 trillion, right? So it says here, it says, could it be possible that we're on the verge of the next Lehman Brothers moment? The Lehman Brothers moment happened when? Back in 2008, 2009, when all the banking systems collapsed because they were overexposed to bad debt. Because that's what it is. It's all about having bad debt. It says here, it says Deutsche Bank is the most important bank in all of Europe. It has $49 trillion in exposure to derivatives. And the most of the largest too big to fail banks in the United States have very deep financial connections to the bank. In other words, the global financial system simply cannot afford for Deutsche Bank to fail. And right now it is literally melting down right in front of our eyes. It says, for years I have been warning that this day would come, and even though it has been hit by scandal after scandal, somehow Deutsche Bank was able to survive until now. It says, but after what we have witnessed in recent days, many now believe that the end is near for Deutsche Bank. On July the 7th, which is roughly 2 weeks ago, they really shook up investors all over the globe when they laid off 18,000 employees and announced that they would be completely exiting their global equities trading business. All right. It says here, it says, these moves may delay Deutsche Bank's inexorable march into oblivion, but not by much. And as Deutsche Bank collapses, it could take a whole lot of others down with it at the same time. According to Wall Street on Parade, the bank had $49 trillion in exposure, right, to derivatives at the end of last year. It says here, where are we? It says, during 2018, the serially troubled Deutsche Bank, which still has a vast derivatives footprint in the US counterpart to some of the largest banks on Wall Street, trimmed its exposure to 48 trillion. It says a derivative book of $49 trillion notional puts Deutsche Bank in the same league as the bank holding companies as US juggernauts, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs. It puts them in the same league as those three banks when it comes to exposure to these debts, right? It says, yes, it says the actual credit risk to Deutsche Bank is much lower than the notional value of its derivative contracts, but we are still talking about an obscene amount of exposure. It says, and this is especially true when we consider the state of Deutsche Bank's balance sheet. It says, according to Nasdaq.com, as of the end of last year, the bank had total assets, this is total assets of the bank, of $1.5 trillion. And total liabilities of $1.4 trillion, all right? Those are its actual assets, right, what it's exposed to. It says, in other words, there wasn't much equity there at the end of December. And things have deteriorated rapidly since that time. In fact, it is being reported that $1 billion a day is being pulled out of the bank at this point, right? $1 billion a day is being pulled out. So people have drawn out their interest in this bank. And it's averaging $1 billion a day. It says, I know that most Americans don't really care if Deutsche Bank lives or die, but as the New York Post has pointed out, the failure of Deutsche Bank could quickly become a major crisis for the entire global financial system. All right. So it says down here, it says, as long as I have been doing this, I have been warning my readers to watch the global derivatives market. It says, it played a starring role during the last financial crisis, and it will play a starring role in the next one to come. It says the fundamental structural problems that were exposed during 2008 and 2009's banking crisis were never fixed. In fact, many would argue that the global financial system is even more vulnerable today than it was back at that time. And now it appears that the next Lehman Brothers moment may be playing out right in front of our eyes, right? It says now more than ever, keep a close eye on Deutsche Bank, because it appears that they could be the first really big domino to fall. So what you got to ask yourself is, Deutsche Bank is, they say Deutsche Bank is more exposed to than the banks that crashed during the last banking crisis. Remember, the Lehman Brothers went under. A couple of banks in England went under. Was it Bear Stearns went under as well? These were investment banks. So this next financial crash that's going to happen, we're not going to recover from the next financial crash. And I say again, all of this is orchestrated because ultimately what the bankers want and need is to bring in the new digital currency, right? To be based on a few continents' currencies. So Europe would have their own digital currency, America, South America, and Canada would have their own digital currency, and then Africa would have a digital currency, and then Asia, like China and Japan, would have their own digital currency. So basically, what is happening here is that the bankers, the financiers, the investors, the money, the people that control these central banks are preparing for this next financial crash. But the next financial crash that's coming, the economy, the global economy, is not going to recover from it. All right, because I've said this before, the stock markets, when they're buying and selling shares and so forth is all based on witchcraft, right? One day a stock is worth $20 a share, the next day a stock is worth $10 a share, all right? So you got to think. So I'm going to give you an example. For instance, Deutsche Bank, its stock value last year, right, January, in July 2018 was a roughly $20 per share. By December, it dropped down to $8.50 per share. So it lost 58% of its value in the space of 6 months. That's Deutsche Bank. That's supposed to have $1.5 trillion worth of total liabilities and $1.4 trillion, so $1.5 trillion worth of assets and $1.4 trillion worth of liabilities. So these financial institutions are getting ready for the crash. Why is that? Why do you think they want to bring in a digital currency? What would be behind all of this? Because what comes with a digital currency is what? Is the new electronic contactless payment systems that we use today that's going to come in the form of what? An RFID chip. The RFID chip, as you know, is the mark of the beast. So the only way they can control the printing of money that's got out of control today, that's caused governments to be in so much debt. So an example, the American government is what, $22 trillion in debt, but the total debt of the federal government in America, including its liabilities like for social security payments, welfare payments, and so forth and so on, is actually 200 trillion US dollars. All right, and that would include like mortgage debts that people have with banks and institutions. When someone takes out a mortgage loan or a car loan, it's running around $200 trillion of debt. Now, how long do you think these central banks and these commercial banks and investment banks are going to sit around sitting on all of this debt before they have to collapse the whole system and start again? And by collapsing it, they're going to bring in the digital currency. Hence why they're getting you used to things like the idea of having Bitcoin, contactless payments, cryptocurrency. They're getting you used to having these sorts of money that no longer requires you to carry around physical money, notes or coins in your pockets, because the whole system has to collapse. The whole financial global monetary systems have to collapse for these governments to change it over to a complete digital currency. And with that digital currency is going to come your RFID chip, because remember, when you're using your credit cards, they're getting you used to, you're using that, and it's not based on anything. It's just credit. It's just a company that says that they're prepared to pay the shop that you're buying that stuff from. They're prepared to pay them that money that you're using to pay, and then you're meant to pay back that credit company. And on top of that, every time you spend it, you pay 2% interest to me on what you're spending. So when they go and spend that money, and I get the receipts in from the shops that they've been buying stuff from, I use the money that the people are paying their debt off to pay off the debts to the shops that they're purchasing their goods for. All right, it's like a catch-22. It's like a revolving circle which is going on. So let's bring out some scriptures that we can refer to and what's going on. First, we're going to start in the book of Habakkuk. All right. First, we're going to start in the book of Habakkuk, right? I think it's probably the best place to start is in the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 2. So in the book of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 6. Book of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 6. It says, shall not all these take a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe unto him that increases that which is not his. And this is what these banks have been doing. They've been increasing that which is not his. And this is what these banks have been doing. They've been increasing that which is not theirs. And so with the general public, the people that are continuing buying stuffs on loan, on credit, on America they call it layaway plans and so forth. Woe to him that increases that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladders himself increases that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladders himself with thick clay. All right? And in the Hebrew, the word thick clay here is abayat. And abayat means debt. It actually means debt. So this is what these governments have done. It actually means debt. So this is what these governments have done. The governments around the world have laden themselves with thick clay, with debt, right? So have these banks and these institutions. They've just increased more debt on top of debt, and they think, and the way they've been getting around this is just by more debt on top of debt, and they think, and the way they've been getting around this is just by printing money, all right? So the scripture says, woe to him that increases that which is not his, right? How long? And to him that lathers himself with thick clay. That's what they're doing. They're loading themselves up with debt because inevitably this crash is coming. And that's gonna usher in, like I said, the beginning of us, the nations, starting to use cryptocurrency, digital currency. The nations starting to use cryptocurrency, digital currencies. All right? They're gonna change the way how money is made in their society. Because remember, they're the ones that decide what money is. You look on your pounds, your pound notes, or your dollar bills, all it says, I promise to pay the bearer. It's just a promissory note, nothing else. It says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of, if it's a $1 bill, $1. If it's a $10 bill, $10. The same thing it says on the English pound or the euro. It says, I promise to pay $10. The same thing it says on the English pound or the euro. It says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 10 euros, 20 euros, whatever the currency is that you have in your hand. All that is an IOU. Anybody can write anybody a promissory note. And then the governments of those countries, they say to you, this is promissory note. And then the governments of those countries, they say to you, this is the currency of exchange. This is what you use to buy and sell. All of that is going to collapse because of what these banks are doing, these central banks are doing, and because of what these governments are doing in the amount of debt that they're loading themselves up with this current currency. So let's pull out a few scriptures here. We're going to go to, Job chapter 20, verse 15. And this is why we've always said, and we'll keep on saying this, that real money is what? Gold and silver. Real money is not these notes that we have in our pockets. These are just promissory notes. Real money that has never failed, right? Never failed the test of time is gold and silver. What we, the test of time, is gold and silver. What we carry around now is promissory notes. So let's go to the book of Job and see what Job says about what's going on here. The book of Job chapter 20. The book of Job chapter 20. The book of Job chapter 20 verse 15. He says, he has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly. And this is what is going to happen. And when it says he has swallowed down riches and he shall vomit them up again, the will happen. And when it says he has swallowed down riches and he shall vomit them up again, the riches, the super elite and the elites, right? What we know as the Illuminati, those that control the world's financial institutions and monetary policies and that, they are sitting on real money. Your Rothschilds, your monetary policies and that, they are sitting on real money. Your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, your JP Morgans, your Goldman Sachs, they are actually sitting on real money, which is gold and silver. What they give out to the public to use is not real money. It's just the currency that the government of that country, not real money. It's just the currency that the government of that country says is the legal currency of exchange. That's all that is. So when it says it's going to vomit up again, is all of these riches that they are truly hiding. When the judgment comes in, all of these are going to be taken back from these. When the judgment comes in, all of these are going to be taken back from these people that are sitting on the real money, gold, silver and diamond. All of their riches. It says, he shall suck the poisons of ass, the viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the brooks of the honey and the butter. That which he labored for, he shall restore. All that what he's labored for, all of that gold and silver that they are hiding away in their vaults, the real currencies, right? That which they labored for, he is going to restore. Esau, Edom, and all of the other nations that are joined alongside, he is going to restore. Esau, Edom, and all of the other nations that are joined alongside them, are going to restore all of that money that they've labored for. It says, and he shall swallow it down, and he shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. So, remember what we tell about, they talk about reparations, how in America they talked about reparations for the African Americans and all those ancestors from the transatlantic slave trade. The reparations that we are looking for is going to come on Judgment Day. These people don't have the money to give us the reparations. This printing money that they have is not real money. The reparations that we are going to get is going to be delivered on the day of judgment, on the day of salvation. So when it says here, it says that Job chapter 20 verse 18, that which he had labored for shall he restore. He's going to restore everything. All that he stole, all that Esau stole, all of the real money, the currency that he stole, he's going to restore. All that Esau stole, all of the real money, the currency that he stole, he's going to restore. And he shall not swallow it down. He's not going to swallow it down. He really believes that that's going to save him on the day of judgment, having that money. Somehow he's going to be able to escape the judgment, right, on the day of salvation and judgment when the Lord comes with the archangels. It says, according to his substance shall the restitution be. So, according to his substance, depending on how much gold each one, then that's what the restitution is going to be. It's all going to be taken away from them, because that is the real money. And he shall not rejoice therein. He's not going to rejoice in it. Right now, he's having fun with this, what we call fiat money system that they created. But the real money, the gold and the silver that they've got hidden away, he is not going to enjoy it. He's not going to rejoice in it, because all of that is going to be taken from Esau, Edom. He says, why? Because he has what? He has oppressed and forsaken the poor. Absolutely. Esau has oppressed and forsaken the poor. All right? Because he has violently taken away an house and he builded it not. And I mean, he's been doing that from day one. He has violently taken away a house and he buildeth it not. Esau's gone to the four corners of the world to violently take away the lands that's got the real resources of gold, silver and diamond from the nations, right? From the Israelites and from the other nations, from the Hamites. He's gone to Africa and he controls all of the gold and silver and mines in Africa. The same in Australia, the copper, the gold, the silver. He says, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. So all what he saved of that is not that he's desired. He's going to feel the repercussions of what he's done. Because he is the one, Esau Edom is the one who is leading this world into this financial crash. This is being done by design. Because they have to get rid of this fiat currency, because they realize it has no more value, none, zero value than what it had before. So they have to get rid of it. It has zero value. So let's go to Job 22. Job 22. Job 22 verse 5. It says, is not thy wickedness great and thine iniquities infinite? Because it is. This global financial monetary system that they created, it's a wicked thing what they've done. People don't realize how they've been fooled into this thing, but we have no choice, because they decide what is the exchange currency that you can use to buy and sell in each of these countries that they control. They control the exchange systems. They tell you what your currency is valued at. That's why countries like Venezuela can go from their currency being wormed. I think it was called the Bolivia, the Bolivar dollar. It was gone from something like $3 Bolivia to a US dollar to now, probably 1 million of them wouldn't even give you a US dollar. because Esau Edom controls the monetary exchange system. They're the ones that decide what the value of that fiat currency is in every country. These governments have no control. These heathen governments of their fiat currency is all controlled by the Edomites. They decide what your currency is worth. So the scripture says here, Job chapter 22 verse 5, is not thy wickedness great and thy iniquities infinite? For thou hast taken a pledge from thy brother for naught and stripped the naked of their clothing. Thou hast not given water to the weary to drink, and thou hast withholden bread from the hungry. And they do all that through their finance. This is why you see Iran was saying to America the other day, what you're committing is economic terrorism. The Iranian leader says that you have stopped us from using the banking system, you stopped us from trading, right? You stopped us from importing in goods. He said the same thing that Esau Edom did to Venezuela and Iraq, right? They're doing to Iran today. And he called it economic terrorism because that's what it is. It's because Esau Edom controls all of the financial and monetary institutions. They decide who can use it. They decide what your currency is worth. So because of that, their currency will always be the strongest currency in the monetary exchange systems. This is why the American dollar is the world reserve currency. It's because Esau Edom has decided what currencies are allowed to use to buy and sell goods globally around the world. It says here, but as for the, it says, but verse 7, it says, thou hast given water to the weary to drink, and thou hast withholden bread from the hungry. Right? And that's exactly what he's done. Let's go to Proverbs 22 verse 16. After Job, Proverbs 22 verse 16. It says there, he that oppresses the poor to increase his riches, because that's what he's done. He's oppressed the poor to increase his riches. Like I said earlier, he controls all of the gold. He has all of the gold and silver. The real money is sitting in Esau's vaults, and if he's not him, he has the majority of it. And then you have countries like China that has started to stockpile a lot of gold. India have started to stockpile a lot of gold, but Esau Edom has the majority of the gold and silver stockpiled around globally around the world. So from the United Kingdom to France to Germany, right, to America to Australia, these are all Edomite countries. Russia. This is what we must always understand. When we're talking about Esau Edom, we're talking about wherever the so-called white man rules as a nation, as a country. So he says here, Proverbs chapter 22 verse 16, he that oppresses the poor to increase his riches. All right, because that's what he's done. He's gone to the four corners of the world to oppress the poor to increase his riches. If he doesn't control your lands today, he controls the resources in your land, or who you sell them to and at what price you sell them at. That's how Esau Edom built up his kingdom, by going to the four corners of the world to oppress the poor. And it says, he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. All right? We're going to go to 2 Timothy's. The book of 2 Timothy, so 1 Timothy's, sorry. Correct myself. I believe it's 1 Timothy chapter 6. So there's not a chapter 6 in 2 Timothy. 1 Timothy, well, First Timothy chapter 6, we're going to start at verse 7. Alright? So the book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 7. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. Absolutely, because once we're dead, the body goes in the ground, goes back to the worm, so forth, but our spirit goes back to where? Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, to the Father. It says, and having food and remnant, let us be therewith content. Right? This is why the Lord's Prayer is what? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. So when Timothy says here, and having food and remnant, which is your clothes, let us be therewith content. Be content with what we have. You got food for the day, you got your meals for the day, be content. You've got clothes in your wardrobe to put on your back, be content. These are things that you don't lick out against or complain against. You've got a roof over your head, be content. So these are the daily things that you need to get through the day. Because what does the scripture say? If we go to, is it Proverbs chapter 23? I believe it's Proverbs, hold on. It says here, Proverbs 23:01. I think I could bring out a precept for you. Proverbs 23. There's a precept I'm looking for here. Just to I'll find it, 1 second. Yeah, Proverbs 27. I went back too far. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 1. And what does it say? It says, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Right? So boast not thyself of tomorrow, because thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. That's Proverbs chapter 27 verse 1. So when we go back and we say, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Why this day our daily bread? Because Solomon says here, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring. Because tomorrow is not promised to nobody. And we seem to forget that. It's not promised to nobody. So when we go back here to 2 Timothy chapter 6, 1 Timothy, chapter 6, verse 8, it says, and having food and remnant, let us be there with content. Be content with what we've got. And if we get anything extra, we give all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It's as simple as that. Verse 9 says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and snare. And they do. They do. Absolutely. I'm not sitting here saying to you, oh, if you fell into money, it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that. It's how you fall into that money, and it's what you do with it when you get it. This is why it says that, but they that will be rich shall fall into temptation and snare, because many people that get rich fall into temptation and snare. These banks and institutions are full of temptation and snare. That's how they got rich. Many traps they put, and they got rich off of the backs of the poor people. It says, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. All right? Which drown men in destruction and perdition. It absolutely does. You see how these elites operate, how they work. They believe they ain't got an answer to no one. I mean, perfect example is who? That guy Epstein, who's in America now, charged with multiple rapes of girls underage and so forth. He thinks because he's got all that wealth that he had to answer to nobody. That's why he was able to get a squeaky clean deal 15 years ago, right? When he was charged with multiple rapes. They said to him, they gave him an 18-month jail sentence. He only served 12 months of that, and he was allowed out of jail every day for 12 hours a day. So basically, he only came back to the jail to sleep. You name me any multiple rapists that would get an 18-month prison sentence, and then every day while he only served 12 months of that 18-month sentence, and then every day while he was in jail, he was allowed out for 12 hours a day to go about his normal business, and then just come back to the jail in the night time to go to sleep. You name me any multiple rapists that got that deal. But because these are the rich, the super elites, these are the ones. These are the money worshippers. This is why it says, but they which will be rich fall into temptation and snare. And that's what he did. He fell into temptation and many snares, and into many foolish and hurtful lust. Right? He's many foolish and hurtful lust, because he was what? He was picking up underage girls and raping them at his mansion, which drowned men in destruction, and it drowned him in destruction and perdition. It says, for the love of money is what? Is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after. And that's what they do. These elites and super elite, they covet after the money that they have. They have a love for money. I say again, there's nothing wrong with you if you fell into money and someone left you money in a will or whatever and you became rich and so forth and this and that. It's the love of it. It's those that covet it, who worship that dollar bill or that pound note or that euro. It says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. So earlier we was talking about Deutsche Bank, the banking system, how it's going to collapse. It's because it was the love of money of the Deutsche Bank, which it's causing it to have to make 18,000 people redundant. That love of money. It's accumulated so much debt. It says here, it says, which some have coveted after. They have erred from the faith. So we're not saying that they even believed in these bankers. They don't believe. I'm not saying they even believe in the scriptures. But they erred from the faith is because what? People that err from the faith are the Israelites. So we have many Israelites that come into money. So let's give a perfect example. Creflo Dollar. Those wicked preachers that are sitting on millions and millions of dollars through their tabernacles and their congregations that they're taking over the poor. They have erred through the faith because they have built up their mansions and their private jets and their Rolls Royces and their cars, sending their kids to private schools and so forth and so on. They have erred through the faith because they coveted after the money that their congregation was giving to them. So they just become like the other heathens. So there are many Israelites out there calling themselves pastors and priests that have tabernacles where people are coming. They've got 5,000, 10,000 people coming into them and they're all donating $5, $10 there. So every time they're keeping a session, they're collecting like $250,000 and then they're telling the people, oh, pray, 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 pray on this and you'll become rich and this and that, and selling them foolishness. Why is that? Because they have a love for money. So many black pastors, so many Israelite pastors out there have a love of money. So they have erred from the faith, and they've totally erred from the faith because of what they do. And they can't see it. As long as they can get to drive their Rolls Royce and send their kids to private schools and build mansions and fly first class everywhere, they can't see their error. Because that money that they join into those tabernacles, to those churches, is so much, it's so overwhelming. They don't even know the truth of the scriptures no more. They just read it off like you're singing from a hymn sheet. That's what they do. Read like singing from a hymn sheet and then start selling people foolish ideas. So it says there, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Because what they don't realize is that those sorrows are to come. Some of them have been taken off the planet already. If you remember Pastor Eddie Long, an American pastor, and he had the love for money to the point that he was sleeping with the choir boys. He was performing acts of homosexuality and still preaching to the congregation. And then he was using that money that he was getting from his congregation to pay for apartments to put those choir boys in that he was having homosexual relationships with. Eddie Long, Pastor Eddie Long. If you remember, he was sleeping with several choir boys in his congregation. And he was paying for their apartments, buying them clothes, he bought them cars, he was buying them gifts. And where was he getting all that money from? All that money was coming from his congregation that was being brought into him. So he had a love for money and he erred from the faith. He erred from the faith in such a way. He was committing acts of homosexuality and he couldn't see what he was doing was wrong. Even though the Bible makes it quite clear, if a man lie down with a man, it's an abomination, and he said he surely shall put to death. We know we don't put homosexuals to death in this society because we're living under Esau's rulership, but in the kingdom they will be put to death. But yet still he was lying down with men. Why? Because he had erred from the faith, and he pierced it themselves. When it says it, they pierced themselves through with many sorrows. The Most High took him out. Remember, he died from AIDS. The Most High couldn't tolerate him no more. Couldn't tolerate his wickedness, couldn't tolerate his false teachings, couldn't tolerate his acts of homosexuality, couldn't tolerate his love for money. So the Most High took him out. And that was an Israelite pastor. So that is just a perfect example of one of those pastors, and there's many of them that are like this. So let's go to Luke chapter 12. Yeah, Luke chapter 12. Start at verse 27. But this is what we got to consider as Israelites. We don't want to be like these people. This is what we have to consider. Because what is unfolding out there is something that they're not going to be able to recover from. The central banks around the world, the investment banks around the world are going to collapse, and it's going to be a dominoes effect. And Deutsche Bank is one of the key banks out there that's going to cause this collapse to happen, because many banks have investments within the Deutsche Bank. So when a company comes out and says, look, I've got to make 18,000 people redundant within 18 months, is a high indicator. 18,000 people, that's 1/5 of its workforce. When the value of that company drops from $20 a share to $8 a share and loses its value by 60% in 6 months, is another indicator. And then when it says that it has over $49 trillion tied up in derivatives and futures, which means betting on the prices of certain things to go up in the future or to go down, betting on that these farmers are going to produce X amount of stock in a certain space of time, betting on that gold mine is going to dig up X amount of gold in a certain amount of time, betting on that a copper mine is going to produce a certain amount of copper over a certain period of time, putting money on the future of things like, even down to the electric car, you know, like what's it called, Elon Musk's electric car that he has out there. The name's gone from my head again, but they bet on the future of how these things are going to work out. They put money into these things. It's tied up in a lot of stuff. That's not, you got to remember, in America alone, the farmers are going through a period where they're having total bad crop. So Luke 12, and we might just finish here. Luke chapter 12 verse 27. All right, listen carefully, because this now, what I'm reading now, is a message to my fellow Israelite brothers, and if there's any Israelite sisters out there that are tuning in, this is messages to you. This is what the Lord is telling us to do when it comes to dealing with all of this money and what we see whirling and swirling around the world, right? What people are worshipping, right? What the banks are printing at no end, right? Putting people in debt upon debt upon debt. This is the message from Luke to fellow Israelites out there. So in the book of Luke chapter 12 verse 27, it says, consider the lilies, how they grow, they toil not, right? They spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory, that's King Solomon, was not arrayed like one of these lilies. Verse 28, if then the Most High so clothe the grass, which is today in the field, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? Listen carefully. It says, and seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be you doubtful of mind. All right? Just don't, because it's all about faith. Ultimately, it's about our faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It says, for all these things do the nations of the world seek after. This is why I called this edification today. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after. And your Father knows that ye have need of these things. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai knows what we need, you know. He knows that we need fluids to drink for the day. He knows that we need food to eat for the day. He knows that we need clothes to put on our back, and he knows that we need a roof over our head. All these things that we seek after, he knows. He will provide it for us. But it's all about our faith. Do we believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and that he will truly provide these things for us? Especially in our darkest hours, when we may be feeling personally that we're going through certain things, right? It says, for all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have the need of these things. All right? It says, but rather seek ye the kingdom of the Most High, and all these things shall be added unto you. And this is why we always say to our people, the first thing we must draw to when we're in times of tribulation, when we're in times of trouble, when we're feeling low, right? When we're feeling things ain't going our way, when we're having problems in the workplace, When we're having problems within the family, seek the Most High. Seek Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai first. Pray to Him first, and pray that through your faith and your belief, He will answer your prayer. But you have to truly believe that when you're praying to Yahweh Shai, He hears you. So it says, and remember when you're praying, do not pray to Christ, to Jesus, to Yahweh. Use His rightful name, Yahweh Shai. He is the deliverer. Right? That's His name, Yahweh Shai. So it says, but rather, so we're in Luke chapter 12, verse 31. But rather seek ye the kingdom of the Most High, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It is His pleasure to give His children the kingdom. And we're talking about the Israelites here. We're not talking about the heathen nations. We're talking about the children of Israel, the Israelites. It says, sell that ye have and give alms, provide yourself bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not. Right? Where no thief approaches, neither does the moth corrupt. So a treasure in the heaven is where no thief, none, can approach. Right? And it faileth not, it does not corrupt or anything. Because that is the true treasure that we are seeking, is what is the kingdom of heaven. Not the US dollar or the euro or the pound. The true treasure that we're seeking is salvation. And salvation, if we receive salvation, it means that we are closer to the kingdom of heaven. So it says here, it says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So where your treasure is, there's where your heart be also. And it's true. Wherever your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So if your treasure is up in heaven, if it's to do with your faith, your belief, your works, your understanding of the scriptures, knowing what to do, how to carry yourself. You get up in the morning, you make sure you do your prayers, you go to bed at night, you remember your prayers. If you have time during the middle of the day, you give more prayers up to Yahweh Yahweh Shai, because as you know, we should be praying 3 times a day. I mean, even sometimes myself, I forget to pray during the day. But it doesn't mean, oh, I'm just going to stop not doing it. It means the next day you try to better yourself again to remember that. You know, you can be driving in your car, sitting in your car, it doesn't matter where you are. You give up a little prayer to Yahweh Yahweh Shai. Because ultimately, just like the scripture says, Luke 12 and 34, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So, I don't think I need to really expand on that anymore, because I just really wanted to talk about what was going on with the Deutsche Bank and how it's going to play a major part in the collapsing of the financial institutions. It's going to play a major part in the ushering in of cryptocurrency and digital currency. So my message to you is to keep your eye on the Deutsche Bank, keep your faith, do your works, because things are spinning around fast. They really truly are. Things are happening fast. And it's only if you're not, like I said, if you're asleep to what's going on, it will consume you. It will consume you. All right? So on that note, let's give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Shalom to the Akiyams out there, to the brothers and sisters. All right, I pray this was an edifying lesson to all the brothers and sisters out there that tune in live and those that may tune in later. Yeah, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash. Shalom, Akiyams.